Hey everybody, we are awaiting remarks any moment from Vice President Kamala Harris. She is expected to address the nation for the first time since conceding the race for president to Donald Trump. Good to have you with us. I'm Dustin Grove.
And I'm Felicia Lawrence. Thank you for watching 13 News at 4. So let's pull up the numbers. 291 electoral votes for former President Trump. He is now the projected winner. Now, as soon as the vice president is about to begin her speech, we're going to bring it to you live, so stay with us.
The other story we are following very closely right now is the Delphi murders trial. The defense rested this morning, closing arguments scheduled for tomorrow.
Investigative reporter Bob Siegel is at the courthouse, where at least one more witness is expected to be called to the stand today.
Things started off with a big surprise this morning, just 1 minute into the day's testimony and announcement by the defense saying we are resting our case. The judge seemed surprised by that. The prosecutor was surprised by that. They were not prepared for a few witnesses that the state still wants to bring back to talk to the jury. So there was a delay for about an hour and a half waiting for some of those witnesses to come speak. At that point, most of the morning was spent with Dr. John Martin taking the stand. He is a witness for the state who was testifying about the times that he treated Richard Allen while he was at the Westville prison. Dr. Martin is a psychiatrist who treated Richard Allen, and he told jurors that when he first saw Richard Allen in prison, it seemed he was doing fine, but then in April of 2023, he came and visited with Richard Allen and saw that he was suffering clear signs of psychosis, lying naked in his cell with feces on him, and at that point, he had an emergency meeting with other doctors and decided to involuntarily provide some medication to Richard Allen to try and treat the psychosis. And then he told the jury that over the course of the next several months, in meeting after meeting after meeting with Richard Allen, he detected no psychosis. Now, that is different testimony than what we heard from some of the defense expert witnesses who said that in looking at video and in speaking with Richard Allen, they clearly identified that he was psychotic. And of course, this is very important testimony for the jury because the jury is going to have to decide whether the confessions that Richard Allen made while he was inside the Westville prison, whether he was psychotic or not psychotic. That will be a big part of what the jury is going to have to decide. We're still expecting another witness or two here this afternoon, and then we expect closing arguments to the jury tomorrow. In Delphi, Bob Siegel, 13 News.
All right, Bob Siegel, thank you so much. And today, millions of Americans are celebrating President-elect Donald Trump's win.
That win secured after he landed the battleground state of Wisconsin, which gave him more than the 270 electoral votes needed.
Michael Yoshida is in West Palm Beach, Florida, and explains how key issues drove historic support for Trump.
He's going to clean everything up and make us all normal again.
We need a strong person at the helm.
We're very uncomfortable with how many people are coming across the border. We're in Texas.
Please welcome President-elect Donald J. Trump.
Voter support turned into massive voter turnout and victory for President-elect Donald Trump. He's now the second person in U.S. history to win 2 non-consecutive terms as commander-in-chief. Reaction and reflection from both sides of the aisle.
I think there is a populist and a anti-incumbent wave because of the impact of both the pandemic and the recovery from it.
The top 2 issues for voters were the economy and the border. This was an overwhelming victory for President Trump.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
And I think presidents who are given a mandate to govern deserve from the Senate the opportunity to surround themselves with people that are going to help them execute their policies.
And a Republican Senate is exactly what Trump will have after the GOP secured enough seats to take control of that chamber overnight. Republican and former Representative Liz Cheney, who campaigned with Vice President Kamala Harris, said in a tweet, "Our nation's democratic system functioned last night, and we have a special responsibility to support and defend our Constitution."
I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept.
In West Palm Beach, Florida, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
And a record number of Hoosiers came out to vote on Election Day. In Marion County, more than 350,000 residents cast their ballots both early and on Election Day. Now, according to the Marion County Election Board, vote totals are not considered final until all provisional and military ballots have been reviewed, counted, and certified by the Marion County Election Board, and that happens on November 15th.
One of the earliest races called last night was for governor. U.S. Senator Mike Braun will be Indiana's next governor. He held a news conference this morning at the JW Marriott to lay out his transition plan and his priorities. He also talked about his lieutenant governor, Micah Beckwith. Now, you'll remember Beckwith was not Braun's pick for LG, but state delegates chose him over the summer at the party convention.
Part of the party that I think he represents is where all the passion is on the conservative side. And I think now they're on board, and it's my job to make sure that the full spectrum of what being a Republican is about in this state is then going to be focused on the kitchen table issues I've been talking about.
Braun says health care reform is one of his top priorities. He told reporters that as a senator, he was one of the biggest voices in health care reform, and he plans to continue that fight in the governor's office. He met with his transition team today and also with Governor Holcomb. Tomorrow, he's set to return to Jasper, where he lives. On to other results now, dealing with school referendums.
Voters in 2 central Indiana communities said no to property tax increases to help fund their public schools. Rich Nye has the results and reaction.
Kokomo schools ask property owners for $6.1 million a year in additional revenue from property taxes. The money was targeted for enhanced academic programs, upgrades to technology, and the biggest chunk, $4 million, for staff salaries. But voters in Kokomo said no by more than a 2-to-1 margin, with 68% rejecting the referendum.
It could impact those future programs, future opportunities for students.
That was the superintendent last month on the potential impact of a failed referendum. Voters in the Twin Lakes School District in Monticello also rejected a referendum for $3.5 million a year. Superintendent Deb Metzger issued a statement that reads in part, "Without the additional funding from the referendum, we face some difficult choices. To continue serving our students effectively, we will need to make adjustments that will impact certain programs, services, and staffing levels."
We want to have the general public supporting funding for their local public schools. It's a sad state of affairs that public schools feel that they have to run a referenda just in order to make their ends meet.
The Indiana Coalition for Public Education wants the state legislature to increase funding for public schools rather than expanding voucher programs.
If we as a state value K-12 education and if we value our public schools, we need to demand that our legislature passes a budget that adequately funds our K-12 public schools, that at least keeps up with inflation, if not do better than that.
One school referendum in Indiana did pass. That was a renewal of a previously approved referendum for Lake Station schools in Lake County. Rich Nye, 13 News.
All right, thank you, Rich. Taking a live look downtown Indy. Nice to see the sunshine popping out between the clouds. I know, Sean, not everybody's seeing sunshine right now. Boy, I'll tell you what, I had some heavy fog on the drive down from Lafayette this morning.
Yeah, some of that was left over from the rain that we had the last 24 hours. And I think we will have some areas of fog tomorrow morning and again Friday morning as well. So keep that in mind for the morning commute. But yeah, we've been in the middle here of what we call a sun sandwich here in central Indiana. You go to the far northwest, you go to the southeast, and a little bit more cloud cover here. One thing all of us back in, above average temperatures, average highs in the mid 50s. We were close to 70 degrees again for today. Beautiful shot from Carmel here. You can see there's a little bit more blue sky in this part of the state. There's the cloud deck to the north, the clouds to the south. I think this is going to close in over us overnight tonight. And as Dustin talked about, probably will have some areas of fog for the early morning commute here, but it should shed away, and we finish tomorrow again with another good dose of sunshine here. But as it stands, pretty pleasant evening for us here in central Indiana. 58 cooler where the clouds have been in Lafayette, and we've got 73 in Shelbyville. Heading the 7-day forecast timeline on the next batch of rain and perhaps a strong cold front next week. All ahead in a few minutes.
All right, Sean, thanks.
And it doesn't feel like winter is on the way right now, but the city of Indianapolis wants to be ready.
The Department of Public Works says it has hundreds of drivers ready to roll when the snow does hit the pavement. That includes 64 new drivers that now have their CDL and will be part of the crew on standby this season. And to get them ready, DPW has plow drivers going through what it calls a master plow program right now to prepare.
And now that we're into November, we're going to get folks out in trucks, getting to know their routes, getting comfortable in trucks if maybe they're in a new truck, just so that when weather does hit, it's not their first time behind the wheel, that they're prepared and ready to roll.
So don't be surprised if you see them out there. They're also reminding drivers to give those plows plenty of room when they do hit the streets. Hopefully, Felicia, we don't have to see those plows for a while, though, actually plowing snow.